Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Monday.com and Google Workspace webinar. We're happy to have you here today on a Friday afternoon. Really appreciate everyone here who's in attendance, taking the time out of your busy day before the weekend. The lovely weather outside, of course, helps a lot to stay indoors and watch this webinar, I hope. Roughly, it'll take about an hour and a half, so 2 p.m. all the way up to about 3:30. We'll save some time for Q&A. So at any time during my presentation and demonstration, you have a question, please pop it down into the Q&A section, and I'll address it at the very end. So any thoughts come to mind, please feel free to put the questions down, and I'll help answer them as best as I can. Great. I also want to mention here, we have some really good offers for the attendees in today's webinar. For those here today, we have an additional number of free seats that you can get access to after this webinar. Special discount is actually the free seats, and you can also get, of course, a free trial. But as Monday.com partners, we can give you guys a really nice trial and help you on board onto the platform and answer any questions you have. Great. Welcome those who just joined as well. Thank you for joining. I understand webinars sometimes can be a little bit boring. So hopefully it's not too boring for you guys today. Great. Today's agenda is first and foremost why Google Workspace users need Monday.com, the challenges people face in their current Google Workspace accounts or implementations, the solution Monday.com poses for those who use Google Workspace, as well as what is Monday.com actually, for those who don't know. And I'll give you also a brief demonstration of Google Workspace's integration with Monday.com. Last but not least, we'll do a little bit of a slide and a recap at the very end, as well as some Q&A time for everyone here to ask some good questions through the chat. For those who just joined as well, a quick reminder, feel free to post any questions you have in the Q&A section here on Zoom, and I'll help answer those questions at the very end. Great. So first and foremost, who are we? We're actually Master Concept. We're a Monday.com Silver Partner. We've been Monday.com partners for over 4 years. We've helped over 160 companies on board onto Monday.com. What's also interesting is we develop Monday.com custom applications as well. So we develop custom integrations, API integrations with other systems, like ERPs, for example. We've also built a really fun gamified dashboard widget as well, which is quite beautiful. But the most important part behind this is we could launch this application to the public with limited resources, in a sense, limited staff, and very efficiently by utilizing Monday.com and Google Workspace's integration. I'll even show you a little bit of how we did that together in Monday.com and how we support our end users really efficiently and effectively using a ticketing system with Google Workspace's integration with Monday.com. So first, why Monday.com is perfect for those who are currently using Google Workspace. Now, I'm assuming most of those in the audience today are already using Google Workspace. But if you're not, well, you might be interested too afterwards of this meeting as well. So first, for those who use Google Workspace are probably already quite aware of the benefits it brings to you in the different parts of Google Workspace. First and foremost, the communication is a key part. You have the Google Calendar, everyone knows that for sure, Gmail, and Google Meet. I'd be honest, we use it internally as well. I think Google Calendar and Gmail is one of the best. Good user experience and very efficient when it comes to getting things done. Collaboration also, of course, includes your usual Google Sheets, Google Slides, like I'm using today here to present from, as well as Google Docs. Now, the interesting part here is when you take all of this together into one system, you might want to understand and know how you can actually tie it all together into one single system, right? So you have all your emails, calendars, Google Drive folders, you have the shared drives and all the different documentation. It's very easy to lose track of a lot of things. Google Workspace does have a really good ability of collaboration with comments and assigning tasks to people within, let's say, Google Slides, Sheets, and Docs. But Monday.com gives you an extra layer when it comes to project management and tasks. So some key questions for you and your team today in this call is first and foremost, how do you track your team's work? And how do you all stay up to date on the assigned tasks? It's very easy for me also to have a comment on a document asking me to complete a section. And I can easily miss that in the whole breadth and depth of other notifications that I have in my email or in my other Google Docs. So it's really important to understand how you're currently keeping track of all the tasks that you have assigned to or have assigned others as well. Also, do you have a place to go to see a high-level view of all your projects right now? Is that possible? Thirdly, how do you currently collaborate with other team members? How do you collaborate across your different teams? What are you guys currently using? Do you currently have visibility across all of your workflows and processes? So for example, a hiring process, or I mentioned previously a ticketing system process, do you have a complete visibility of that entire workflow? Is your team also able to be transparent and have the ability to actually see what people are working on day to day and understand who's busy, who's underutilized, as well as who should be assigned to certain tasks because someone's on annual leave? And lastly, are you able to integrate your system with other tools to make sure that you have all of your information in one single location? A very common use case that we see with Monday.com especially, it's not just a PM tool. It's an ability to integrate many different systems into one, having a centralized location for all of your work activities. So at the end of the day, our proposal and our experience personally is that Monday.com is a perfect solution for those who use Google Workspace. First and foremost, get a high-level view of everything and where it stands. You can use Monday.com boards for projects, but also other things too. I mentioned before, each item could also be a ticket, for example. It could be a marketing campaign, like today's event. Today's event was a single item in a Monday.com board. We use Monday.com to plan this event. What items are needed to be done in order to achieve an effective webinar? We have a dedicated board for this webinar, for example, with all the items assigned to individuals, like sending email invites, following up, making sure that I've rehearsed, things like that. Second is making sure all your team is aligned on the work that they have due. We understand at a really quick glance who's assigned to what and what the current status is. Is it behind deadline? How can we contact them to ask for an update? You can also get valuable insights on Monday.com by having a centralized dashboard of multiple projects in one single view. And of course, last but not least, and I would say one of the best systems for this when it comes to work management OSs is the option to build pretty advanced automations along with your integrations. I'll show you some of that today during demonstration as well. Now, Monday.com is built up of many different modules. So in a sense, you have your work boards. Everyone's aware of a work board. Potentially it's like a project, almost synonymous with a Google Sheet. Now, within your work board, you can add different modules, integrations like we have with Google Workspace, automations like when a status changes or when a deadline arrives and a status has not been changed, notify somebody, maybe escalation, for example. You also have built-in forms and surveys. We use the form, for example, on Monday.com to receive inbound support tickets for our Monday.com app, Task Magic. Those tickets are then created in a Monday.com board for us to be assigned and review the support request and prioritize them all in one single platform. You also have a timeline option here. This is where your Gantt charts, your view of all your projects in a single timeline view, so you can schedule and accommodate for people's schedules all in one platform. You also have a collaborative whiteboard, workload management, and dashboard and reporting. All of this in one system. Now, how does Monday.com integrate with Google Workspace? There's a few different ways, and I'll go through them here briefly, but I'll also show you a brief demonstration inside the platform as well on how that works. There's 3 core integrations with Monday.com and Google Workspace. In a sense, you can also include Google Drive, which is almost everything when it comes to slides, docs, Google Sheets, for example. But here we have Gmail. The option with Gmail is to turn emails into action items, easily being able to have email inbound, filtered, and put into a board as a task or an item to follow up with an update, for example. You can also automate email replies as well. Something that we do, a little bit of a secret, with our task management support board, for example. We automatically reply to every inbound email. And then once we review the ticket, we're then able to send a reply manually, of course, all from Monday.com. I'll show you how you do that in a second. Second is Google Drive. You can attach all of your files from Google Drive as you typically would in other platforms, pretty easily. Right? You click on Add File, Attach from Google Drive, nothing new. What's very powerful in Monday.com is you can embed live documents within Monday.com because your Google Documents are live and active. You simply add the link to the file in Monday.com and you can edit that document live and collaborate with somebody within the project board on, let's say, Google Slides or an Excel, or in this case, Google Sheet. You can also, of course, integrate your Google Calendar. This is the option to have your calendar events added as items, let's say meetings, in a Monday.com board. But you can also do the other way around as well. Sync all of your due dates for a certain project into your Google Calendar. So you make sure you have all of your due dates all aligned in one single place. Honestly, I find this integration quite powerful, and this is one I love to use the most. So I use the calendar quite extensively for tasks. Again, when it comes to email here, I can walk through a few automations inside the demonstration itself, but here you have the option to easily create an automation which is totally customized to your needs. For example, when an update is posted on an item, you can automatically send a Gmail email to a certain destination. You can programmatically define what email is being sent to. I can define it always to be, let's say, the line manager or the project manager. Or I can also say, take a column in Monday.com and send an email to that person, which is a dynamic variable. Quite powerful. Now, when it comes to inbound emails, I can also filter for certain subject lines and have those emails added directly into Monday.com boards as items for me to follow up with. Now, on Monday.com forms, very similar thing happens as well. So you can publish a Monday.com form and have somebody submit that form and create an item in Monday.com and then follow up via email. Lastly, you can easily embed those online documents I mentioned previously. You have your Google document right beside the project you're working on. So the project documentation, all the information and resources all live in one single place. If I were to be a little bit abstract here or give you an analogy, I would describe this as a place that gives your Google Docs action. So for example, Google Documents probably are centered around activities or tasks or projects. Now you're taking that Google document and adding a project to it, which is quite powerful. You can also easily sync all of your tasks to your Google Calendar, either those on a board in totality. Let's say if you're a project manager and you want to see all of the tasks and project items in a nice calendar view you currently use in your Google Calendar, you can have a dedicated calendar label to show that project and all the due dates and timelines inside of your calendar. Or if you want to work on only your tasks, you can choose to have only your tasks synced to your calendar. I'll show you this in real action in a moment, probably about 4 seconds right now. Great. So now I'm going to show you guys a brief demonstration of all of this in action. Now, for those of you here today, you probably aren't fully aware of Monday.com and how it's being used in most circumstances. But here I'm going to walk through a very simple scenario. I mentioned before, Monday.com could be used for many, many different different use cases, for example. Now, starting from Monday.com might seem a little bit scary. Maybe for some people, a little bit confusing. Honestly, probably not. But if there was at any time, you're a bit confused on the use cases and potentiality of Monday.com, There are many, many different types of templates you can start from. Education, real estate, venture capital, construction, manufacturing, software development. We actually have an event coming up pretty soon, which is a dedicated event talking about Monday Dev, Monday's agile solution for parts of management. Here, I just have a very simple project set up here, okay? On Monday.com, you have a thing called Workspaces, which are dedicated areas of Monday.com, which are usually used to separate either departments or units of business. So you're not all having one single view and it's cluttered and it's hard to navigate. You're separating your work into certain workspaces for your team, and you can make those private or open to your organization. Now, in this workspace that we made just for this webinar called GWSmonday.com, we have a few different boards. Most importantly, I have a portfolio structure set up here. I have a really nice portfolio view of two projects, Project Omega and Project Alpha. I'm viewing these projects at a high level view, seeing all the statuses, for example, and their timelines and their descriptions. Now I can also dive right into a single project and show you what I mean with these integrations. Let's assume, for example, we're working on this thing called Project Alpha together. Firstly, I have some groupings of items. So I have meetings up top. I have some inbound project emails being sent in here. And also have the overall planning stages, and execution, and launch stage. Okay? Firstly, I want to show you something very interesting when it comes to the meetings. So here we actually have meetings coming in to Monday.com. We actually have the assignees, attendees listed here as well. And I have all of the calendar invites here into the Monday.com board. So for example, I was recently added to an event called TGIF with myself and Samuel Yun, one of our other Monday.com experts. Location is in Master Concept, Hong Kong. And I can also click into here and see the Google Calendar link directly. Open this one because this one's filtered. So I can see it here on my Monday.com board, which is great. I can also see on the left side here as well that all of my different Monday.com projects that are added as an integration with my Google Workspace have their own label. So I can turn them on and off. Of course, I've turned off my actual work calendar. I don't want to show that in the webinar, but here I have the different ones that I can make sure I can filter or have a nice quick view of. So TGF apparently starts at 4 to 5 p.m. Excellent. We also have this Monday.com event as well. Now, if I also create an item in this calendar, this will be synced over into my Monday.com board as well. So I can choose which calendar to add it to. New event. I sign up for that time. I can also invite Samuel or somebody else if I want to. Now back in this board, I'll actually have this coming inbound as well, and adding it as a calendar item in this board. So all of my items here are synced out into my Monday.com, into my Google Workspace calendar. I can simply customize this here and sync all of this over to my calendar. But what I've also done here, very interestingly, is added a Google Calendar integration from the integrations category. Now this integration is a few clicks, and all it takes is to create a new item inside the Monday.com board whenever an item is added to my Google Calendar. Here, I can dynamically add all my attributes in, let's say, variables into the from the Google Calendar into my Monday.com board items. I can see here on the left, these are all my Monday.com board columns, for example, and these are all the attributes and details coming in from my Google Calendar. For example, the start time of the event is for the date column, for example. I can also add the end time to the completion date, as an example. I can also see a really good audit and history run of all the integrations taking place. So again, my Google Calendar here is being synced both ways into both platforms across the board. Now, most importantly, I want to be able to answer and respond to my incoming emails as well. I can see here I got a few different emails coming inbound as well. So I have one GWS inbound email. I can open this up. I can see this email coming in. Again, this is a demonstration from myself. I can see who it's coming from, and I can reply back to this individual directly from this board as well. With the emails activities widget, I've added this to my Gmail account, so I can actually send an outbound email directly from this interface. I can also send this directly to myself, of course. Thank you, as an example, but I can also apply a template. So in a sense, this is actually entirely a rich text email editor here in Monday.com. I can also add variables like the column attributes, right? Person's name. I can make these emails dynamic. I can also, of course, apply a AI writing assistant in this, and I can even attach files as well. I send this email off. Now I can actually see this email being tracked, whether it was seen or not within this board. Very easy to use. Email threads will show up here as well when it comes to replies. If it's seen or not seen, I can also forward this email from here as well if I want to, or reply in the email thread here as well. Okay, we use this quite extensively, or at least I do, especially when it comes to inbound support tickets or things that are project-based. Similar, I mentioned before, is that with this integration, I can easily add it for myself as well as my teammates by going to the integrations category. So here I've actually added an automation. But if I were to show you as an example how I added this previously, I simply clicked on this and I went into the Monday.com options of integrations. Here under Gmail, we also have Google Drive and Google Calendar. Under Gmail, I can easily click here and then add this as a Gmail. I'm sure my computer's a little bit wonky right now, as a Gmail automation here. Great. Now, what's very interesting is there's a lot of recipes that are pre-built for you. Okay, so you don't need to actually have a programming experience or knowledge to be able to actually do this. So for example, here's some key examples here. Coming inbound, I can see Gmail to Monday.com. When an email is received, create an item in a certain group. Now, what does that mean? I add my email address, I can log in. I can define what email, so any email. I can filter only for certain subjects or certain receivers, for example, okay? I can write out what it should include, what it shouldn't include. I can also maybe filter only for certain subjects, for example, support. I can add more conditions, but that's probably it. I can add it to a certain group here, for example, and then add to the board. And once that's done, I have an automation already built in place for myself. And I can, of course, go into that and make sure it's working correctly using the activity log. So for example, I can view this one. Same thing I built pretty much, but I can also see all the run histories. I can see when this email was actually received, when it was put into the group. I can see more information on my actual automation, as well as general analysis as well. Did anything fail? Is anything currently in progress? Maybe stuck, okay? Now my inbound emails will show up here. So if anybody here in the webinar is paying attention or is there and wants to maybe be a little bit cheeky and fun, not inappropriate, I hope, you can send me an email with the subject line GWS in capital letters, okay? My email address is james.lindsay, Lindsay at hkmci.com. With any email you send me with that subject line containing GWS, it'll automatically appear here under this group in the board. You want to test it out? Be my guest. Be kind of cool to see it in real time. But here I have all of my inbound emails for my project here, okay? Now, of course, I can also attach any project files as well to this board if I want to. But most importantly, I can have a very simple view of my calendar, like I showed you previously, here in Monday.com. So I can see the tasks. I can see TGIF is today. The town hall is next week. There's also another task over here. And then online docs are also listed here as well. So we have our Google Workspace and Monday.com event slides dynamically here. I can go into full screen view with this button and edit this document as if I'm inside my Google Drive right now, which is quite awesome. So I don't have to leave this interface to actually edit this document, for example. I can also add comments like I would normally within my Google Drive documents. I can also revise documents here as well. So for example, this was probably the email that you received to get invited to today's event. So we use Monday.com to actually communicate and collaborate on what email should be drafted, any comments back and forth, for example, on this email. Great. Now back to this other previous project I mentioned before, was actually having inbound support tickets displayed here in the account. So I have a support ticket coming in for task management from Samuel. Here I have a support ticket. I have a response that is automatically sent back to this individual. So I can see here an inbound email was sent saying help, not much context, but I also have an outbound message sent automatically to this person. Then I can simply add this email and email them back directly from this interface, like I mentioned before. Now again, this automation was set up for the option to have this Google Drive and Gmail integration set up. So here, it's an example of a pretty real scenario. I have the email design here. I have the subject line. I say hello, and the pulse.name is just a variable, which is the person's name. I say, hi, thank you for your inquiry. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Best regards. And I send it to who? I send it to a column, and it's an email column. This column is coming from the from the Monday.com workspace, Monday.com's forms, rather, sorry, the email field of the input. And I automatically send an email right back to them from that form submission. Now this form is from here. And I can simply embed this form into a web page, which we actually currently do. And they input their company name, their email address, if they're a current Monday.com user, for example, and their questions, and as well as a screenshot. Okay, so I have all of this documentation then listed in this board to provide support pretty much instantaneously. We also use Monday.com to manage all of our assets for the project. So for example, we have all of the assets here, which we had to do. We had to go through the logo design, the banner graphics, we had some descriptions we had to write up, and we had all the assignees. So for example, our designer, Elsie Wong, was attached there. She was responsible for some of the graphic designs. And when she finished those graphic designs, she marked the task as ready to review. I got a notification automatically, and I went in here to review these items. These were attached from Google Drive directly into here. I also added comments on this, for example. I like a lot. Great. So here we're managing all of our files in one single location, and each of these items are being related back to the actual deliverable, which is required. Very easy to manage, very easy to review. Now we also had all of our project documentation in one single location. So we had all of the documentation we needed to do in development for this project. So I have the requirements documentation and specification here, you know, for our documentation and how it should be made, what's the design, for example. We have some Google Sheet. We've also attached here as well, which is a secret algorithm that we use to compute experience points for our Monday.com dashboard widget. Give you guys a little inside sneak peek to that. I also provided here some reference points for all of the avatars that we have inside of the account as well. So different roles and different avatars that we'd be using for this widget. I've also embedded our dashboard performance. So I can actually review this dashboard in one single and easy to view way. This could be a Looker Studio dashboard or other reports you have here. And we're actually analyzing the feature adoption of this widget across our user base. So again, I can take all of this information and add this into a Monday.com board and go to one centralized location to manage everything with my other team members as well. If I want to see all my Google Drive files and folders in one single view, relative to this project, I can easily see all of them in a single view. I can go back here and make sure that we actually have the banner graphic here. And I can refer back to this and actually download it from here as well to my computer if I forgot to add it to something, for example. So all this information is provided here for me to reference back to at any time I need to use it. Excellent. So going back to the slides, a few more slides here, and then we go to some Q&A section together and discuss. What's really important here to understand is that Monday.com could be used for many, many different use cases and scenarios. The most common scenarios that we see across our clientele and across the industries are these ones here. So in marketing, you can do campaign management and event management. For example, today, we managed our events that we did webinar today, all through Monday.com. So the content itself, our planning, our email drafts, for example, like you saw earlier, were all done within Monday.com. Like you also saw with Task Magic, we use Monday.com as IT and operations. So we actually had a help desk built into Monday.com. All of the inbound requests and support tickets were being received as items in the board. I can immediately respond back with support inquiries all through one platform. We can also manage creative and design, taking creative briefs, managing the workflow around the review cycle. So for example, when an asset is created, I can add comments, approve or reject, for example. We can also manage a sales pipeline. I didn't show you that today, but a really interesting point with Monday.com CRM is the option to actually have a CRM as well. For another case, we can use the CRM to easily integrate with Google Workspace as well. You can send emails out of Gmail, as well as manage meetings in your calendar as well, all in a nice to use CRM. The product roadmap, which is a thing we'll cover in our next Monday.com webinar, which is a Monday Dev Solution Focus, is all about the option to manage development cycles in an agile way. That's Scrum management, for example. You do sprints, just like you would see in other agile PM tools. HR is a really common use case as well, where we see people managing the recruitment pipeline. The hiring and onboarding of employees is a really common use case. R&D, similar to the product development use case, is all about sprints and product design. You saw earlier how we used Monday.com a little bit to manage and develop the task management integration. Lastly, customer success, like I mentioned previously, with support tickets. We also have weekly shifts options as well, where we can assign people at certain times of the week to inbound support requests. So as you can see by this slide alone, Monday.com is a very comprehensive solution when it comes to all your different use cases. Most importantly thinking is that you can use it across multiple departments, especially under one single account. Great. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the meeting that we actually have a surprise or prize or gift rather, all the above, for all the attendees here today. That includes 5 free seats of users for Monday.com enterprise accounts. So for those who want this offer, it's a really good offer in terms of value for money, because enterprise Monday.com accounts also come with an included onboarding service by our expert team here at Master Concept as well. So Monday.com Enterprise will give your team the option to have the best in the market tool like Monday.com, as well as the best in the market onboarding services from Master Concept. And you get 5 free enterprise seats as well. Of course, terms and conditions do apply, but please, to get the actual offer, schedule a call with us after this meeting. We'll send you a link on how to schedule that call and get those 5 free seats. Okay, those 2 QR codes. First one is to share your feedback with us. I really appreciate your feedback. I'll read it most likely through Monday.com, through different items. So you can send those feedbacks to us as well. And we can help, of course, shape future events or webinars as well. And again, our goal here is to be informative and beneficial for your time, right? So our idea is not to sell you anything per se, but actually really kind of give you best value for your time and to help you understand what's the newest and greatest in the market of IT. So briefly, 10 seconds, feel free to scan that and share us your feedback. Greatly appreciated. And lastly, we have an upcoming event for those Google Workspace lovers here in the audience, June the 20th on a Thursday at the Google Hong Kong office, because we Master Concept are also Google partners as well. You couldn't tell. Here, you can sign up by scanning the QR code as well. You get VIP access, early access by scanning the QR code, and you guarantee your spot for this event. And it's really going to be good for those who are interested in Gemini and those who are not aware of what Gemini is. It is Google Workspace's, or rather Google's GPT kind of AI technology they're using, kind of like you would have a Copilot with Microsoft. So Gemini is Google's version of that. So those of you in the audience who are interested in that, you get the first priority seats by scanning the QR code and signing up today. Great. Well, other than that, I really hope we do have some questions. No, we don't. Okay. Okay. Well, very quick for time, because I would have thought about more Q&As. That's okay. If you have any questions at all in terms of the demonstration or in terms of the integration in general, the option here to have the integration with your Google Workspace products, your Google account, having inbound integration with things being added to Monday.com from your email, as well as your calendar, feel free to please drop a message or question down in Zoom. And if not, I can bid you all a happy Friday and TGIF. We'll also send you a follow-up email afterwards with a form to fill out if you have any questions and want to schedule a call with our specialist to get your 5 free enterprise seats. Okay? Oh, happy Friday. Oh, thank you, Avery. You too. Great. Well, everyone, thanks so much for your time today. Have a lovely Friday. Bye-bye.